Welcome back to MHS, Midnight Horror Stories. In today's episode, we're bringing you a compilation of standout stories that our amazing viewers sent in via email throughout September. Out of respect for privacy and security, the names and locations in these stories have been changed to protect the identities of everyone involved. We aim to release animated adaptations of your submitted scripts on the 15th of every month. So, if you're sitting on a genuinely terrifying real-life experience and would love to see it turned into an animation, don't hesitate to send it over to horrorstories3s.com@gmail.com. Before we jump into the episode, drop a comment below and let me know the time and place where you're watching. I'll be reading every single one of your comments. This story takes place in a remote area of the UK, but to protect the people involved, I won't say the exact location. My friend Zara, a British Pakistani influencer, had recently had her second child. Her husband had gone away on a golf holiday, leaving her alone with the two children. She was used to being left alone, as her husband often worked away from home and frequently took vacations with his friends, leaving her to care for the children. It was a stormy October night with loud thunder. Her house was fairly isolated, and the noise from outside only amplified her growing sense of unease. Since Zara bore a resemblance to Kim Kardashian and was a micro-influencer, she knew her online presence could make her a target. At around 9 p.m., she had just finished a cup of coffee in the kitchen. The children were asleep, and Zara was making sure the house was locked up for the night. She went back into the kitchen and saw that the back door was slightly ajar. She started to approach it, but then felt very dizzy, stumbled, and she fainted. Zara slowly regained consciousness while strapped to a chair in the kitchen. The first thing she was aware of was how heavily she was breathing through her nose. She felt something covering her mouth, and after twisting her lips, she realized it was sticky tape sealing her lips. Zara started to panic and tried to talk and shout, but the gag around her mouth was preventing this. She struggled to move as well, as she could feel her hands taped together behind the chair. When she looked down, she saw she was duct taped to the chair and her feet were taped together. Her hard breathing caused the tape covering her mouth to pop in and out. Then the lamp over her head switched on. Standing there before her was a medium-built man with a hood on and a scarf covering his lower face. At this point, Zara was obviously petrified and mainly concerned for her two children sleeping upstairs. The man then said, "I won't hurt you, but do you keep money in the house?" Zara mumbled no against the tape. The man had a large bag which he had filled with items such as Dubai jewelry from around the house. The next thing he said sent a chill up Zara's back. "Don't worry, your kids are asleep." He then went to leave through the back kitchen door and before exiting turned and said, "I'm sorry for this." He then left. Zara struggled with her bonds for a few minutes, and then eventually managed to free her mouth from the tape by twisting and biting it. She immediately ran to check on her children, who had both slept through the entire ordeal. She phoned the police, and the man was eventually apprehended later that week. The burglar admitted to gaining entry through the back door and had drugged her coffee, which explained why she fainted. He said he had lost his business and was in a desperate situation with the state of the economy, but he did not wish to harm anyone. He also admitted that the idea came from the similar situation that had happened with Kim Kardashian a few years earlier. Zara is a very strong, feisty young woman, so she did eventually learn to live with the situation. However, it's not something you can ever fully recover from. Though she eventually found the strength to feel sorry for the man's desperation, Zara knew the chilling feeling of being utterly helpless, strapped to that chair, was a trauma she would never fully forget. My story took place in the early morning of New Year's Eve. When I retell it, I often refer to it as a John Wick story, while the beginning of the story, like in the first movie when he was at a gas station. I was wearing all black, a long-sleeve shirt, black yoga pants, a long straight ginger wig, and some light glam makeup. I loved the exotic look and always dressed up on the weekends because pretty women always make more money, especially on the weekend. I was working as a driver on a side of town that I don't usually go to. I didn't think too much of it as I was on my way to pick up a passenger, but then I noticed I was about to be out of gas. The minute I saw the gas station, I had an uncomfortable feeling that something was not right about that particular place. I didn't have a choice though. It was the closest one to me at the time. So I convinced myself that everything was okay, and I was just creeped out because no one was there but me at 4 a.m. I slowly pulled into a gas station that was a couple of minutes away from my stop. I noticed it looked deserted. I was the only one there. I pulled into the last gas pump toward the entrance, near the back. I tried to take safety precautions, as I knew I was a woman pumping gas at night, so I left my purse and my wallet on the floor of the front passenger seat. I locked my car with my keys, got out to pump gas, and scanned my phone on the pump using Apple Pay. After a few minutes of pumping gas, a suspicious man with a limp slowly walked up to me, looking like he was up to no good. He asked if I could give him a ride. I looked him up and down to assess what he was trying to do. I told him, "I can't help you. I'm in the middle of something right now, and I can't give you a ride." He told me he was hit in the leg with a brick, and still pleaded with me to give him a ride. I told him to call the police or an ambulance because I was not going to help him. He pleaded again, this time walking closer and closer, not keeping his distance. I started getting loud with him to let him know I wasn't playing any games. I shouted, "You need to walk away from me and stay back. You need to leave me alone because I am not helping you." I put the gas pump back and looked up to see a working construction truck at the pump beside me. The driver had noticed my encounter. The guy realized he was being watched and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, thank you," as he slowly walked away. I looked away, irritated, shaking my head, as I ran out of money on my card. God told me to get out of there, that I was in a dangerous situation. But I thought he was gone, and I still had time to finish filling my tank with another card. I scanned my phone again to continue filling my tank. Then, my instinct told me to look back over to where the man had walked away. I saw that he had come back once the man at the other pump had left. This time, I saw an evil, crazy look in his eyes that was so dark, so evil, like he was coming for me. I had seen that look before, that serial killers and murderers have. I knew in that moment that he wanted to kill me. As I locked eyes with him, I said a prayer. God help me. Then my instincts kicked in. I showed him no fear in my face because I knew that's what he wanted to see. I put the gas pump back quickly and slowly kept my eyes on him. As he walked toward me, I started walking backwards, saying, "You need to leave." I walked toward the cameras near the shop so they could capture his face. He started pushing me, saying, "You won't give me a ride." 3 times. I started screaming as loud as I could. "Help! Someone call the cops." He backed away as I turned my back, then tried to hide behind the gas pumps. I knew where he was. I couldn't just unlock my car and get in, since it was too close to where he was hiding. I walked slowly in my platform slides on the wet ground, careful not to slip. There were witnesses at the scene, but no one helped me. When I screamed, the gas station cashier, a young man, told me to call the police because he didn't have a phone. He just allowed me to be attacked and didn't try to help at all. An older woman who lived in nearby apartments came out when I screamed. She saw what happened and just said, "You should call the police." When I got close to my car, he came out from behind the pump. I turned around and walked back, trying to lead him toward the cameras. This time he grabbed me from behind, holding my arms and torso. I knew he was trying to kidnap me, traffic me, rape me, and steal my car. I yelled again, screaming. He told me to shut up and said, "Come here, come here." I knew he was trying to take me to another location. I threw my head back, forced my arms and upper back open like a gym exercise, repeating until his grip broke. He grabbed the crown of my head, tried dragging me by my hair, and put a knife to my back. I screamed again as he tried to lead me away. One of my shoes slipped off, making me unstable. I shouted, all right, loudly. I arched my back, twisted away, and he ripped off my wig. He looked at me, then the wig, in disbelief. I acted shocked to play the part. He told me, "No one wants you," then pushed me onto the wet ground again. I got up, stood firm, and pointed at him. I spoke directly to the murderous demons I believed were possessing him. "You will not touch me again. In Jesus' name, I rebuke you. You will not ever touch me again." He backed away slowly, shocked at what I said. I kicked off my other shoe, got into a fighting stance, and left my belongings behind, knowing the police would later see evidence of an abduction. I saw my keys and phone on the ground. He said, "I'm going to rob you. Give me your keys." I said, "Okay," snatched my keys and phone, and sprinted barefoot to my car. I jumped inside like a cat, locked the doors, and looked down at my hands, covered in blood. My side hurt, like I had been cut or stabbed. I started the car, and he appeared at my window, fist raised. I hit the gas, and he missed me. Driving slowly, I honked to draw attention. I realized he was hiding from the cameras, so I made sure he was exposed before I left. I poured water on my side, pressed alcohol wipes against the wound, called the police, and drove to the ER. I arrived barefoot, bleeding, and met the police there. Forensics photographed my injuries and took my report. 6 or 7 months later, it was finally my court date. I told a cop in the waiting room, "I want to make sure my attacker never sees the light of day again. I want him to rot in a cell for the rest of his life." When my lawyer called me into the courtroom, my heart sank. I walked inside, took 3 steps, and saw him. He never made eye contact, but I froze, remembering the predator he was. The judge questioned him, but he seemed confused and drugged. My fear turned to disbelief. There was no way this murderer didn't remember trying to kill me. The judge declared him too mentally unstable to stand trial. My mouth fell open. I was sick. He had nearly gotten away with it. My lawyer rushed me out, whispering, "Let's talk." Outside, she explained he needed to be evaluated in a mental institution before trial. I asked, frustrated, "How long is that going to take?" She said, "I don't know. It could take months." I realized my chance at justice had been ripped away. I waited nearly a year to testify and shout, "He is guilty," across the courtroom, but that chance never came. I haven't heard about my case since. My lawyer stopped returning my calls, and there has been no closure. I knew without a doubt that God saved me, not any of the witnesses. I learned through this experience that when you call on God, He will help and save you. I'm Mia, 29. I've been a cop for 5 years now, but this incident almost changed that. 2 years ago, I finally got enough experience to be working on murder cases. It was winter when I got assigned to my first one. Blood was found in the alleyway, which was later identified as belonging to an old homeless lady named Lucy. What's tragic is that we were pretty close. I'd give her spare change whenever I passed her, and she'd always greet me with a warm smile. I sometimes talked to her, and even let her stay with me in the freezing weather. I knew I had to do something as soon as I saw her missing. For the first few days, we came up with nothing, which made me exhausted. One night, I was getting ready to head outside for fresh air, just to rest a bit from that case. When I was about to leave my flat, I heard loud footsteps moving away from my front door. After a few seconds, I opened it, looked around the hallway, but no one was there. That wasn't really surprising since I live right on the ground floor. Halfway to my favorite cafe through the park, I thought I heard the same footsteps behind me, but when I turned around, no one was there. I got to the cafe safely, got myself some nice hot chocolate and enjoyed the starry sky and falling snowflakes, almost forgetting what had happened recently. Then I looked down, and outside, across the street, was the largest guy I've ever seen, staring at me. Not only was he over 7 feet tall, but his big tummy made him look even bigger. Also, his eyes were pitch red like he hadn't been sleeping in days. What was even stranger is that I'd never seen him in my town before. I did my best to pretend I didn't see him and just went home. I had a taser with me, but I still decided to take a bus this time. When I got out, the same giant passed me as if he never saw me, but I finally had a chance to observe him better. As I did, something hit me. Was the giant wearing the same jacket as the one I gave to Lucy for her warmth? At this point, I could stop him, show him my badge, and check him, or report him as a suspect. But I also didn't want to risk being wrong about him and leaving a bad impression, so I decided to just follow him. After 3 minutes, he entered an abandoned building, which made me even more suspicious of him. I had to report him for breaking into an abandoned building, as well as make sure they bring more units because of his size, so I did just that. Little did I know, that saved my life. I slowly entered and took the taser out, ready to defend myself. I tried to make as little noise as possible while searching for him. Luckily, I didn't have to use the flashlight since the moonlight gave enough light. Suddenly, I was hit with a foul stench from the basement. I followed it, and it led me into a big room. Inside, I was stunned to see what was in there. A brutally dismembered body was on the rusty table. There were knives and other cutting tools hanging around, and even a functional microwave. But the real shock began when I recognized strands of Lucy's hair. Frozen, I was about to scream when everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by my trembling parents, doctor, and police chief. The chief explained everything that had happened. When police arrived, they pulled out their guns as soon as they found the giant with a knife pressing against my neck. He threatened to kill me if they didn't let him go. Luckily, we had one sniper who aimed for his head from further away and killed him. It turns out he was a cannibal before, and most likely about to eat more people due to the size of his room. As for the body, it belonged to Lucy. It is believed the giant somehow knew I was a cop close to Lucy, and by wearing the jacket I gave her, he wanted to lure me there. The chief was kind enough to let me rest for 2 months. To this day, I'm grateful for that sniper, because only God knows how things would have ended otherwise.
I'm Selena, 24 years old. I'm a paralegal and live in Texas. My boyfriend Victor and I have been together for almost 2 years now. Victor's 4 years older than me and super into photography. My room's full of artsy portraits Victor's taken. He never leaves the house without his camera. Wherever he goes, he's always pulling out his camera and snapping amazing shots. Victor's picky about it. He likes to handle the whole process of taking and developing photos himself. Lately, Victor's been picking up a bunch of jobs, so his schedule's been crazy busy. After all that craziness, we finally got to spend some time together. Victor was wiped out and told me his neck's been pretty sore lately. I figured it was from work and told Victor to take it easy for a few days. He stopped taking on jobs and just stayed home to develop photos and send them back to the customers. Everything was fine until one day. Victor developed the photos he took for the high school group at the graduation. That's also the school Victor went to when he was younger. But weirdly, all the photos came out messed up with light streaks in one part. Victor had never dealt with this before. He checked the photos on the camera again, and they were fine. When he developed the photos again, the light streaks were gone. We figured it was a problem with the photo development process. But when I looked closely at the photos, I got goosebumps, because I saw a woman's shadow showing up everywhere. I couldn't see her face clearly, just a pale face, dark eye sockets, and long hair. I quickly showed the photos to Victor. He was freaked out for a while. A creepy vibe took over, and we didn't say anything after that. We'd heard a lot of stories about creepy photos before, but I never thought that one day he'd end up taking pictures of them himself, and so many at that. The rest of the day, Victor didn't say a word to me. He was quiet, looked tired, and seemed like he was lost in thought. The next morning, we went to a photo repair shop in the city, hoping they could fix the photos. Victor showed him the photos with a flash in one corner, but the shop owner said they couldn't fix them because they were too damaged. We looked at each other. Then he showed the photos with the girl's shadow in them. Anyway, she showed up in just a small corner, so there was a better chance of fixing it. The shop owner gave us a hard look. He took the photos, turned away, and said at the same time, "Ghosts are always around us. They could be friends, family, demons, or people who really hate us. And they never just go away." I shivered in fear when I heard that. Looking at Victor, his face seemed worried and confused. The owner told us to come back in a few days to pick up the photos. On the way back, Victor was deep in thought, and the mood was pretty down. I suggested we go to the park instead of heading home. We held hands, walked, and talked. I told Victor I wanted to take some pictures, and he was happy to go along with it. I stood there posing, and as soon as I lifted the camera, Victor's whole attitude switched to panic. He put the camera down and looked at me, clearly freaked out. I was confused and had no idea what was going on. Victor freaked out, looked around, then picked up the camera again to check it out, but didn't take a picture. I ran back, and before I could say anything, Victor grabbed me and pulled me to the car to leave. In the evening, I cooked and opened up to him. Victor must have been worn out from work, and on top of that, those creepy photos were probably messing with his head. That night, Victor went to bed really early. I couldn't sleep, so I went downstairs to get some water. As soon as I left, I heard water running in the room across the hall. That was the room Victor used to develop the photos. I walked over, opened the door, and honestly, I got a little scared when I saw the photos Victor developed that afternoon. I slowly walked over to the sink where Victor kept his photo developing solution and saw bubbles rising. From under the water, a head of black hair slowly started to rise. I was frozen. I couldn't even breathe. The hair was pretty long, and it looked like it belonged to a woman. Then, 2 hands shot up really fast, grabbing the edge of the sink tightly. I jumped back, tripped, and ended up falling to my knees. Just as the head was about to fully emerge, I jumped up and realized it was all just a dream. I turned around and didn't see Victor. He was sitting by the window, staring out, looking really lost in thought. I walked over, didn't mention the weird dream, but gently asked him. Victor was really tired. He said his neck was getting worse and was causing him insomnia. The next morning, Victor and I went to the doctor to check out the pain in his neck. The results came back totally normal, which was pretty surprising. The doctor prescribed some medicine, told Victor to take it regularly, and said to keep an eye on it. On the way back, we stopped by the photo shop to pick up the stack of photos from the day before. The shop owner wrapped the photos up in some paper and handed them to us with a cautious look. He didn't answer any of our questions, just told us to check out the photos ourselves when we got home. When we got home, Victor quickly tore into the stack of photos to check them out. Both of us were shocked because the woman's figure wasn't edited at all. It was even clearer. She had changed her posture, and her face clearly showed the details and a hateful expression. Victor instantly burned all the photos and called the customer to apologize and sent over some compensation. Victor gave up his job and stayed home since the pain was getting worse. His health getting worse, along with not sleeping, put him in a bad mood. I caught him a few times yelling and even telling someone to stay out of his life. But when I peeked through the crack in the door, I was shocked to see he was alone. There were times when Victor would wake up in the middle of the night, stare at me, scream in fear, and tell me to go away. I rearranged my work and planned a trip so Victor could relax and hopefully ease his neck pain. We picked a place close to the city and drove there in our own car. The road was full of fresh, bright scenery. I played some soft music, and we both felt really relaxed. Those happy moments didn't last long. A few minutes later, Victor suddenly screamed in panic, gripped the steering wheel tight, and then slammed on the brakes. He kept panting, and it really confused me. Then Victor quickly jumped out of the car, looking frantic as he checked the front. I quickly unbuckled my seatbelt and got out of the car, asking him what was going on. Victor said he had just hit a girl really strong and he needed to rush her to the emergency room. I hugged Victor, looked him in the eyes, and told him there was no girl. Everything was fine. Victor stared at me for a while, then calmed down and kept apologizing for his mood swings these past few days. I suggested we head back and get Victor to see a psychologist, but he firmly insisted that everything was fine and wanted to keep going with the trip. I saw how determined Victor was, so I agreed. But the trip just wasn't fun anymore. Victor's face was really tense as he drove, and I kept staring at him, worried. The traffic light ahead turned red, right at the crosswalk. There was a schoolgirl walking across. I didn't see any signs of Victor slowing down, so I turned to remind him. Victor gripped the steering wheel, his eyes bloodshot, his face and neck swollen, shouting loudly as he slammed his foot on the gas pedal. "I told you to stay out of my life." And then the awful thing happened. Our car sped up and slammed into the schoolgirl. The car lost control and then crashed into an electric pole on the side of the road. There was red on the windshield, along with the twisted body of that poor girl. I only had time to see that horrifying sight, felt a sharp pain in my head, and then passed out. I'm not sure how long it was, but I was lucky to wake up and recover pretty quickly. Victor wasn't as lucky. He temporarily lost control of his limbs. My family pushed me in a wheelchair to visit Victor. He didn't look at me, just kept crying and saying sorry. Victor said he knew why all the weird stuff that had been happening lately was going on. In high school, Victor had a girlfriend named Bethany. Victor got really into photography back then, and he and his girlfriend would often take souvenir photos at school. One day, Victor found out that Bethany was being bullied by two of his close friends in the lab. Instead of protecting his girlfriend and standing up to his two friends, Victor just stood there laughing and taking photos. Bethany felt completely hopeless and ended her life when she turned 18. Haunted and exhausted, Victor lost consciousness, thinking the schoolgirl walking by was Bethany. Victor was feeling really regretful, thinking he was paying for his past mistakes. Victor said goodbye, not wanting my life to be affected. I cried a lot. I loved Victor so much, but just couldn't face him. A few months later, while I was cleaning up at Victor's place, I accidentally found a photo he'd taken of himself. The spirit of a high school girl with a resentful look was sitting on Victor's shoulder. It had to be Bethany.
I am Gray, 14 years old. I have just moved in with my grandmother because my parents are serving prison sentences. I had a younger brother, but he passed away when he was 3 months old. I can't clearly remember the last time I felt truly happy. My family was once financially well off, but everything fell apart when my mother's nursing license expired and my father was laid off from his job. We lived in a small house, devoid of warmth or cheerful conversations. Love gradually became a scarce and luxurious commodity in my family. I constantly had to face my parents' arguments at any time of the day. That made me feel fed up, tired, and suffocated every time I came home. Many times, I quickly brought my dinner to my room and locked the door before everything could be thrown to the ground. Sitting in my room, I put on my headphones, turned the music up loud, and started eating, not realizing when the tears started to fall. Since I was little, I've always felt a strong, burning smell in the house, especially in my parents' room. The smell made me uncomfortable and curious, but every time I asked about it, I only received cold stares and scolding. I didn't understand what was happening until I was old enough to realize that it was drugs. My parents were always dazed, their eyes vacant, smiling with no reason, and their actions out of control. I felt like a ghost in this house, always silently observing and never being noticed. The feeling of loneliness clung to me, even though I tried to find something, anything, from the place I called family. One day during dinner, my mother announced that she was pregnant. I screamed with joy, thinking that I would finally have a younger sibling, a companion. I no longer have to be alone, and maybe everything will change. However, my parents' reaction made me feel a strange sense of anxiety. My parents looked at each other with a confused gaze and a hint of discomfort. Anyway, I still hold on to the hope that everything will get better. During the first few prenatal visits, my mom always took me along. Although Dad stayed at home, he always said he was busy. When I found out I would have a little brother, my excitement doubled. I imagined moments of playing, talking, and how I would protect him. That was also the last time Mom went for a prenatal checkup, as far as I remember. The day my little brother was born, I couldn't believe my eyes. He was so tiny, fragile, with pale skin and red spots. I overheard the doctors telling my parents that my little brother was born addicted and that his liver contained at least 2 types of stimulants. My mom and dad just stood there, indifferent, not showing any concern or sympathy. I wanted to get closer, but the nurse took him away. I couldn't do anything except stand and watch. My little brother was then adopted by another family as soon as he was discharged from the hospital, and my parents also underwent rehabilitation measures. The feeling of emptiness and disappointment returned. The house gradually lost its burnt smell, but the coldness couldn't be erased. Sometime later, my dad regained custody of my little brother after successfully completing rehab and passing the Child Welfare Agency's test. My mom also returned, and the family was reunited. I hoped deeply for a better future. That summer vacation, my parents signed me up for a camping trip a few hours' drive from home, which would last for 3 weeks. Although I didn't want to, not even a little, I was completely unable to resist. The first thing I noticed when I returned was that the house had a very unpleasant burnt smell again. My parents didn't even look at me, even though it had been 3 weeks since we last saw each other. I searched for my little brother, but I couldn't find him. Even his belongings were gone. I asked my parents many questions, but they just sat there staring at the ceiling with vacant expressions. That evening, the police came to the house and arrested my parents, leaving me in shock. My little brother had been neglected and passed away at the hands of my parents. I was taken to live with my grandmother to avoid the bad information and images. Still, I couldn't stop wondering about the lives of my little brother and me. Why were they so heartless? Why did we never receive the love that every child deserves? The story above is based on the true events of the couple Jessica and Daniel. Instead of building a happy family with a stable job as they once had, they became consumed by drugs. In 2018, Jessica discovered that she was unexpectedly pregnant. She didn't go for prenatal checkups during 2/3 of her pregnancy because she was afraid the doctor would find out that she had been using drugs. Even during labor, Jessica's face was emotionless, showing no sign of pain. That was an indication of the effects of drugs. As a result, their second son, Dylan, was born a month early, and it was discovered that his liver contained at least 2 types of drugs. This cruel couple neglected the child, causing Dylan's death, and chose to hide his body in an abandoned well next to the church. After several attempts, the police managed to retrieve an object consisting of 2 milk baskets secured together with 3 padlocks, 12 plastic ties, and 8 electrical wires. They were sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for Jessica and 47 years in prison for Daniel. Life is not without cases of child abuse and neglect, or parents who refuse to raise their children, and this is an act that is utterly reprehensible.
I'm Marcus, and my wife Stella. We live in Austin, Texas. We've been happily married for 10 years, got good jobs we both love, and a steady income. My wife and I have spent a ton of money over the years trying to find our little angel. We've been willing to try it all. The big hospitals, small clinics, and all the latest reproductive treatments. God must have seen how hard we tried, because after 4 years, Stella and I just broke down and hugged each other tight when we saw those 2 lines on the pregnancy test. But then, "Marcus!" Stella yelled, totally freaking out, and it made me jump. I looked around and couldn't find Stella. The bathroom light was on, and my wife was just crying her eyes out. I rushed into the bathroom, and my heart dropped when I saw Stella sitting on the floor in a pool of blood. So, that little angel was only with us for less than 2 months. "I didn't even get to find out the baby's gender yet," Stella said, crying and holding the ultrasound photo close. It was a huge shock for my wife and me, going from hope to happiness, and then suddenly crashing down to disappointment and sadness. After we lost our kid, Stella locked herself in her room all day, just crying and feeling miserable. She stopped taking care of herself and our family like she used to. Every time she got home from work, the whole gloomy vibe made me feel really suffocated. "Stella, how about we have a fun day out this weekend? Where do you want to go and what do you want to eat?" "Joy Toy, can you take me there?" Stella said with a straight face. Of course. I was a bit surprised, but honestly, I just wanted to make Stella feel better, so I was down to go wherever she wanted. On Saturday morning, Stella got all dressed up and put on some light makeup for our outing. Seeing my wife looking fresh and happy again made me really happy. We started to head out. 403 West 2nd Street. It's about a 30-minute drive from here, honey. Stella didn't say anything. She just stared out the window. "It's been a while since we had a date, so I see you're all dressed up and wearing makeup, huh?" I teased Stella a little. "No. I want to go see our kid." "What?" I said, turning to Stella, totally surprised. She didn't say anything more. I had a ton of questions buzzing around in my head, and they just kept piling up every minute until I got to the Joy Toy store. As soon as the car stopped, Stella jumped out and rushed into the store, totally ignoring me yelling after her. I quickly hopped out and dashed into the store, checking out the big, colorful space. "Stella! Stella, where are you?" I just yelled out. As I zipped along the toy shelves, I glanced around and suddenly got chills. The lullaby was soft and sad, kinda like a cold wind. It crept through the toys with big eyes and a smile, giving me the creeps. "Stella!" I yelled when I saw my wife holding a doll and softly singing a lullaby. I went to stop my wife because the other guests were giving her weird looks and whispering. "Stella, what are you doing?" I whispered. "Marcus, keep it down. Mikey's sleeping," my wife said, giving me a disapproving look. "What did you say? Mikey?" "Our son. Look," Stella said, holding the doll out to me. "He's got my eyes, right?" "Stella, stop. What are you doing?" My wife didn't even catch the end of what I said. She just hugged the doll and took off. I quickly ran to pay for it and then chased after her. From that moment on, my life officially turned into a total nightmare. Stella was happy and laughing again, but not with me. She was with her Mikey doll. Slowly but surely, my house got filled up with toys and boys' clothes in all shades of blue. One night, I turned to hug my wife, but in my dream, I just didn't feel her warmth next to me. A white figure with a creepy humming sound was swaying back and forth right in front of me. I freaked out, jumped up, screamed, and started frantically looking for the light switch. Turns out it was my wife. She was singing a lullaby to her little son. I felt totally helpless, and my heart was still racing with fear. For a bunch of nights in a row, I was always sleeping on edge, feeling panicky. That really messed with my nerves big time. Little by little, I started hearing kids crying and laughing, and the sounds of toys turning on. It felt like there was a real kid living in the house, even though I was all alone. Everywhere I looked, there were these colorful, cute toys with big round eyes that were dark and deep, and they totally creeped me out. I hated them. One time, I had just come home after work, and my wife was soothing the doll. And the creepiest part, it was crying. My head was spinning, and I opened my eyes wide to take in what was happening in front of me. My wife, looking totally out of it in panic, was trying to soothe this dirty, torn-up doll. I yelled loudly, tried to hold Stella down, shoved her in the back seat, and rushed her to the hospital. The days Stella was in the hospital were also my time to chill and recover. I called in the cleaning crew to tidy up the whole house, tossed out all the toys and kids' stuff, and painted the place a brighter color. Stella got some good therapy and started to chill out. She was dealing with the hurt of losing our kid again. But I felt good because I at least got her to come back. We slowly got past the hurt, got back to work, and started living our lives again, hoping a little angel would show up soon. I'm Brenna, and I work as a nurse at one of the local hospitals. My husband Ven and I split up 18 years ago and still haven't gotten around to filing for divorce. We don't have kids or any stuff to split. Honestly, this marriage was never a happy one. I kept trying to patch things up, but Ven just kept making it worse. But that doesn't even begin to cover the story of that devil in disguise. He was the one who plotted to take me out and get his hands on the house I'm living in now, which is worth $300,000. I texted Ven, asking if he could swing by in a few days while I was on vacation to look after my cat. Ven didn't text back, so I tried calling, but he didn't pick up. When I got back from the salon, I spotted a note stuck to the microwave. Didn't sleep well, so I'm heading to the beach for a few days. Ven's note. He was just saying no, but whatever. It wasn't a big deal to me. After tidying up the kitchen a bit, I headed up to the bedroom and got this weird feeling something was off. The room looked a bit dimmer than usual, so I glanced around and saw the curtains were shut. No way I did that. I've been opening those curtains every single morning for years, like clockwork. I went in to open the curtains, and out of nowhere, a man showed up. My first thing that caught my eye was the long-handled hammer he was holding. He was about 6 feet tall, wearing a baseball cap and some yellow gloves. He didn't give me a chance to react. He lunged at me and hit me like a maniac with that weapon in his hand. First hit from the hammer landed on my shoulder and right arm while I was trying to defend myself. My survival instinct kicked in right away, and I realized I had to fight back. I started scratching and biting, thinking I had to leave as many marks on him as I could for police to find the guy later. There was no way I could match his strength, especially since he was almost twice my height. But actually, my big body at the time came in pretty handy. Using my size to my advantage, I charged at him, but that first hit didn't really do much. The man just staggered for a second and didn't go down. "You're so strong," he said, and that fired me up to fight back and protect my life. I charged at him again, using my whole body to take control of the intruder. This time I got it right. I seized the chance to grab the hammer from his hand and hit him back. "Who are you? Who sent you?" I yelled, but the intruder was out cold from the last hit. I bolted outside, screaming to get attention, and asked the neighbors to call the police. I went back inside to deal with the other guy, and once again, faced the harsh reality of human nature. He came to and jumped right back into attacking me like before. I've been a nurse for 30 years, and during that time, we've done a ton of self-defense classes to handle tough patients. Using my size and skills from work, I overpowered him again. I climbed on top of him and used a judo air choke, completely taking him down. "Who sent you here? Just tell me, and I'll let you go and call an ambulance." But he still wouldn't say anything, and his stiff body slowly relaxed and stopped breathing. At that point, the police showed up, and I still couldn't shake the fact that I'd just gone toe-to-toe with the death. The police did their thing and figured out that the intruder was Aiden Knight, a man with a long rap sheet for stealing. The police first thought it was just a regular break-in, but then they realized there weren't any valuables taken from the house. The bag Aiden Knight left in my basement was the proof that nailed the whole thing down. I found the bag when I decided to crash at my friend's place after that crazy incident. Inside the bag was $200 in cash, a diary, some meds, and a paycheck. It's worth mentioning that the check was from the company my husband then worked for. The police didn't take long to figure everything out and piece the whole story together. Ven fessed up to all his crimes, saying he wanted to inherit the house worth $300,000 after I kicked the bucket. I cried, feeling really sorry for myself. Living with a controlling and selfish husband for 18 years, he was totally grossed out when he saw how much I had changed. That's why we never had kids. But I tried a bunch of times to fix our relationship and never blamed him. Ven got sentenced to 10 years in prison, and I filed a lawsuit for $1 million to make sure he wouldn't have a dime left to hire someone to try and take me out again. Ven died 3 months before his prison term was up, and honestly, it was a huge relief for me. I didn't even bother to change the lock on the house. It was still set to the day Ven and I got married. But in the end, all my love, sacrifice, and patience were totally wasted. That evening, I remember lying down, reading the new comic book I had just bought after school earlier. The story was about a giant monster that came to Earth in search of a new food source, that is humans. The more I read, the more I got drawn into the captivating storyline, completely forgetting about my bedtime. "Hey," I jolted, startled by a deep, resonant voice unlike any I had ever heard before from anyone. I froze for a few seconds, unsure if I could trust my hearing. "Hey, kid," the voice echoed again. I jumped up, grabbing the blanket to shield myself, curling up as I scanned the room. It was clear that I'm the only one here.
"Don't scream. I'm down here, under your bed."
I leapt up, pulling the blanket tightly around my trembling body. I have to escape and call for help from Mom and Dad, but no, the monster will grab my ankle and devour. Internal struggle took me a few brief seconds and couldn't come up with a solution for myself.
"Don't be scared. I just want to talk for a bit. What's your name, kid?"
Maria, I answered obediently, fearing I would provoke the monster.
"Are you not going to ask for my name, kid?"
The monster said in a rather humorous tone. What's your name?" I asked, feeling a little more at ease.
"Sully."
"Really? Are you Sully?" I asked, pulling the blanket down. I knew Sully was blue with very soft fur.
"It's me."
Sully slightly smiles. I laughed along with him, eager to look under the bed to confirm the image in my mind. But I was still afraid and felt suspicious. At least I knew I would be temporarily safe and have time to find a way to escape.
"What is your dream, kid?"
Sully asked me gently. "An artist. I really love things that are colorful. What about you, Sully?" I asked back.
"I have a dream of becoming a dentist. What do you think about a monster being a dentist?
Sully chuckled in a deep voice. I also laughed out loud, and then I gathered all my courage to ask the question that had been weighing on my mind all along. Are you going to scare or eat me?
No, I am here to scare the person hiding in your wardrobe.
I was startled and immediately turned my gaze toward the wardrobe. The rustling sound echoed, and once again, I pulled the blanket tightly over myself, feeling terrified and panicked. Sully, I'm so scared. Please help me. I pleaded with a monster. The room's lights suddenly went out, and the wardrobe door swung open. I knew this because I could hear it. A few seconds later, the blanket was yanked off my body with a strong force. I screamed loudly, but before I could grasp my surroundings, everything fell silent again, and my heart raced so fast that my chest felt tight. Slowly opening my eyes, I was gasping for breath. A sharp knife was on the bed, right next to my foot. The window was shattered, and the cold December wind swept into the room, making my body feel even more stiff. The door swung open, and my parents' frantic voices called my name. My mother rushed over and hugged me tightly, while my father quickly called the police. The police found a smaller knife, some tranquilizers, a cloth bag, and even a taser in my wardrobe. My parents couldn't remain calm upon seeing those things. As for me, I couldn't think of anything else except for Sully. 3 hours after my dad's call, another police unit managed to apprehend the intruder. His name is Jeffrey Buonarroti, 36 years old, his body covered in fresh cuts that were still bleeding. So I was saved by a monster? This is unbelievable. I didn't get to see Sully, but I heard him. Sully came to warn and protect me. It's hard to believe. After the incident, my parents replaced all the locks and installed security lights around the house to ensure our safety. I never heard Sully again, but I will never forget that deep voice. I've never looked under the bed even once, partly because I was more scared than curious, but I hope he is still there. 2 days ago, I finished reading my book. At the end of the story, the monster chooses to stay on Earth and live peacefully with humans, to do many good deeds to atone for the mistakes and losses caused. People loved and gave the monster a beloved name, Sully. Not all monsters that come to you are there to scare you or eat you.
I'm Philip, 35, an office guy living in a small apartment out in the suburbs. On weekends, I usually hit up the YMCA to blow off some steam, but I didn't see it coming. Everything changed for good in just one morning. That day, the gym was way quieter than usual, probably because of the crappy weather. The weirdly cold air hung over the place that's normally packed. I wrapped up my workout around 9 a.m. As soon as I walked into the locker room, I knew something was off. My locker door was wide open, and my stuff was scattered all over the floor. I rushed over to check my valuables, my wallet, and my car keys. Still trying to process what just happened, I suddenly heard quick footsteps echoing through the hallway. I turned around and locked eyes with some random guy. He ducked his head, shoulders all hunched up, like he was trying hard not to meet my gaze. His hands were shaking as he shoved something into his pocket, then bolted through the door to the parking lot. The sky was all gloomy and gray as I ran outside after him to the parking lot. My mind was a mess, questions spinning like crazy. Who was that guy? Did he swipe my car keys? And why? I was too late. The car zoomed past me, window cracked open just enough for him to yell out,
"Please! I need this car! They're after me!"
He floored it, and the engine roared as he sped off, leaving me flat on the ground, completely stunned. I just sat there, watching my car vanish, this hollow feeling settling in my chest. That panicked look in his eyes gave me chills. What could be so terrifying that he had to do this?
After a few minutes, I snapped out of it, scrambled back to the locker, and thank God my phone was still there. I quickly called the police and filled them in on everything. A few days later, they let me know they found my car out in some deserted suburb. They said the inside was trashed, but luckily, nothing important was missing. I let out a big sigh of relief, but they had to keep the car a bit longer for more investigation since it was tied to the theft and some kind of fight. About 2 weeks later, I finally got my car back, and that's when the real nightmare kicked off. Weird stuff started happening. On my way to work, I kept spotting people dressed in black, staring at me in a creepy way. I kept telling myself I was just being paranoid, but when I got home, everything clicked. The furniture was all messed up. There were dirt stains running from the front door all the way to the living room. Someone had definitely broken in. I called the police right away. They found a tiny camera hidden behind the TV in the living room. My stomach dropped the second I saw them pull it out. Just knowing someone had been secretly watching my life shook me up. Fear quickly turned into full-on panic. I threw together a bag with just the essentials and booked it to a hotel for a few days before moving into a new apartment. But even in a new place, I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling. Every time I went out, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Those figures in black kept showing up, sometimes on the train, sometimes just standing on a street corner. They never did anything, but the way they stared at me sent chills down my spine. One day, I got a call from the hospital. Some guy in critical condition wanted to see me before he died. I hesitated, totally confused, but I went anyway. The second I walked into the hospital room, my heart dropped. It was the guy who stole my car. He was lying there, covered in injuries, looking so weak. When he saw me, he tried to say something, but all that came out were these raspy wheezing sounds. With shaky hands, he scribbled one word, USB. Before I could ask him anything, he suddenly started seizing. The nurse rushed to call the doctor and started emergency treatment, and I was quickly pushed out of the room, getting a suspicious look on the way out. I left the hospital feeling completely lost, and then I found out he didn't make it. The only thing I knew about him was his name, Terry. Why did he mention a USB? What was that about? The men in black started showing up even more. They were everywhere, on street corners, in parking lots, even near my new apartment. I called the police again, but without solid proof, there wasn't much they could do. That night, I lay there in the dark, feeling like a dozen eyes were on me. I couldn't get the guy who stole my car out of my head. His pale face, those panicked eyes, and his final words. They kept swirling around in my head, pulling me deeper into this pit of doubt and fear. The next morning, I drove to work, feeling totally drained. Right when I was almost at the office, my car's engine suddenly made a loud, awful noise, and the whole car started shaking like crazy. I froze, not knowing what to do, and a few seconds later, the engine just died. I kept trying to restart it, but nothing worked. I was frustrated as hell, wondering why all this bad luck wouldn't stop piling up. I called a tow truck and had them take the car to a shop to get it checked out. After work that day, the garage called and said my car was ready to be picked up. I paid a hefty repair bill, and just as I was about to leave, the mechanic handed me something they found in the car, a USB. My whole body jolted like I'd been hit with a surge of electricity as I held it in my hand. Was this the USB Terry was talking about? I headed home, my mind a mess with a million questions, barely paying attention to the road. A blaring horn and bright headlights from an oncoming car snapped me back to reality. I was in the wrong lane. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down and focus on getting home to just crash and clear my head. That's when I noticed an SUV behind me. It had been tailing me for a while, and even though I was driving pretty slow, it never passed me. After days of feeling on edge, my instincts kicked in. I sped up, and sure enough, the SUV matched my speed. It turned into a full-on chase, tires screeching loud against the pavement in the quiet neighborhood. I'd never driven that fast before, and my breathing was quick and shaky from the panic. A quick glance in the rearview mirror showed the black SUV right on my tail. My hands were trembling as I gripped the steering wheel tight. While trying to keep control, I grabbed my phone and dialed the police. The SUV behind me closed in fast. A hard hit from behind sent my car swerving out of control. I screamed, trying to steady the wheel, but I knew I couldn't hold on much longer. Up ahead, another SUV appeared, blocking the road. I slammed on the brakes, and the car jerked to a stop, throwing me forward so hard my head smacked into the steering wheel. Men jumped out of both SUVs. My windshield shattered as they smashed into it. Before I could even process what was going on, everything went black. I was swallowed by darkness filled with fear and hopelessness. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed, and I couldn't move my legs. A policeman sat next to me, looking deep in thought. We caught a few of them. What happened? I told him everything, from when Tyler stole my car at the gym, to his last words, and the USB they found still tucked under the driver's seat carpet. That USB had information on a huge drug and human trafficking ring, along with a list of powerful people involved. That night, there were massive arrests. Politicians, businessmen, you name it. Their names were all over the news. A week later, I found out more about the guy who stole my car. He used to work for that organization, but after seeing his own cousin being sold, like some piece of property, he risked everything to steal the documents and escape. He gave up his life to reveal the truth. As for me, my legs were badly injured, and now I have to use crutches to get around. The doctor said my chances of fully recovering were slim, but if I stuck with the treatment, there was still hope I could walk again. After everything that happened, I moved to a small town and entered the police witness protection program. I was determined to push through the trauma and start fresh. But every now and then, I still ask myself, did they really wipe out the whole organization, or are there still shadows lurking out there?
I'm Sophia, 33 years old. My husband is Liam, 34 years old. My husband and I live in New York. We've been married for 4 years but have not planned to have children. I'm a successful woman with a high-paying job. Lately, I've been so busy with work that my husband and I haven't had much time to spend together. I felt Liam's coldness. On a 5-day business trip to California, I told Liam to arrange work to go with me. Both a business trip and a trip for the couple to warm up their relationship. But Liam seemed very hesitant about that suggestion, and I had to try to convince him. We rented a room at a luxury hotel near Coronado Beach. During the day, I will go handle work, leaving Liam at the hotel to explore everything around. Only at night do we have time for each other. Creepy things at this hotel begin to happen. The first night, I was startled awake when I heard the sound of water running in the toilet. It was about 12 o'clock. I think the hotel's water system has a problem. The sound of running water stopped for about 2 minutes. I was also quite tired after a day of work, so I went back to sleep right after. But on the second night, I heard a knocking sound coming from the closet door. At that time, I couldn't sleep because I was reviewing documents to send to my partner. That knocking sound followed by the rhythm of 3 consecutive sounds with a pause between each time. My heart beat faster with each knock. I'm a very shy person, so I didn't dare go up to see what was inside the cabinet. Hurriedly jumping onto the bed, I tried to shake Liam vigorously. But my husband sleeps very soundly. No matter what, he doesn't wake up. The knocking stopped. I was scared and covered myself with the blanket, hugged Liam tightly and tried to close my eyes to sleep. Things haven't stopped yet. On the third night, I woke up in the middle of the night. Turning to the side, I couldn't see Liam anywhere. I called Liam, no response. I ran to the bathroom and couldn't find him. I was scared and turned on all the lights in the room. I picked up the phone and called Liam many times, but the phone said it couldn't be reached. The clock showed it was after 2 a.m. Checking that Liam's room card and shoes were still there, I panicked. I didn't dare sleep alone in the room anymore. I quickly ran down to the reception hall to sit. Unable to sleep all night, I went up to my room feeling tired and exhausted at 7 a.m. When I entered the room, I was startled to see Liam sleeping soundly on the bed. I called Liam up and asked him where he went last night and when he returned to his room. Liam looked at me blankly.
I slept in the room all night last night. What's wrong with you?
I fell into a state of shock. What the hell is going on? Could it be that I'm being blinded by a ghost? I shuddered at that thought. That day I took a break because my mind was too stressed and I couldn't stay awake. Liam wanted to go out for a walk on the beach for a while and told me to rest. I lay in bed listening to relaxing music. After a while, the knocking sound came again. I jumped up in surprise and stared towards the wardrobe. Slowly getting out of bed, I gently walked to the wardrobe. It was around 10 a.m. I was no longer afraid, but instead felt angry. I wanted to see what the hell was haunting me these past few nights. I opened the closet door really hard, but inside were just 2 bathrobes and nothing else. I was bewildered, not understanding what was going on when the knocking sounded again. It comes from the left corner of the cabinet. I reached out and gently pushed the corner of the cabinet. The wooden panel opened up to another quite large space. I was startled and screamed loudly when I saw someone, and the people inside were also startled and screamed loudly when they saw me. After calming down, I asked that person to step out. It was a young girl with a hot body and a very thin nightgown. She tried to run away but was immediately controlled by me. I called and told Liam to go to his room immediately. I tried to stay as calm as possible when listening to the explanations from my bad husband. The other girl has been his lover for nearly 3 months, traveling with his wife, but he insisted on taking her with him. The sound of running water that first night was because she couldn't hold it in anymore and decided to use the bathroom. The rhythmic tapping sound coming from the closet is their sign when calling each other. The night Liam disappeared was to crawl into the closet to sleep with his lover. Returning home, I immediately filed for divorce. The lawsuit and evidence of adultery, asking Liam for a large amount of compensation, making him miserable. I have to thank the hotel with its unique design for helping me recognize Liam's deceitful face.